Uh, so we shall be beginning now. Hello everyone and greetings from Entrepreneurship Cell of Army Institute of Technology, Pune. I, Ruben George, the Joint Secretary of ECell, will be your host for today evening. And we are really excited for having you all with us today. And joining us as the speaker for today's session, we have the founder of Leading Learners, Galicia Gordon. Leading Learners is an all-in-one online platform based in Canada for free student resources, which include subject resources, scholarships, interactive toolkits, and everything students could need during their academic years. Galicia started Leading Learners from the lack of a centralized support system for students, tying together the resources, materials, and tools students with various challenges may need. She has been speaking three languages fluently, English, French, and Spanish, since she was 6, and has tutored all three at community centers, libraries, and to elementary and high school students. To continue building the learning bridge, Galicia and her team at Leading Learners have hosted hundreds of talks, workshops, discussions, and panels for students worldwide. Galicia regularly speaks and judges at business competitions, hackathons, and works with tech ventures. So before moving on with the session, I would just like to remind everyone that after the session, we shall be conducting a short quiz. So please stay with us for that too. Now over to you, ma'am. You may start your session.
Yeah, thank you so much. The introduction was really nice. And yeah, I'm really, really excited to speak at this event. I believe the organizers are absolutely incredible with organizing and all of their coordination efforts. So yeah, as the introduction had said, my name is Galicia Gordon, and today I will be doing a workshop on sort of how you can turn something you have as an idea in your mind into something larger and really just expanding it beyond this event and maybe even beyond any other clubs or associations that you may be a part of going into the future. So as a little presentation outline, first I'll talk a little bit about me. I'll get into background inspiration as to why I started, why I got involved in entrepreneurship, and then also started something of my own. I'll give you a quote to reflect on that also links to finding the right people to build a team. And then I'll tie it with like strengths and weaknesses when I was starting off. And then I'll end off with resources to establish your very own project that I think can help you. So to start off a little bit about me. So as the introduction had said, I am, I guess, in the professional world known best as the founder of Leading Learners, and essentially we're basically considered a one-stop approach at student resources. So really tying together everything students could need onto like a singular platform. As some statistical numbers, we've been able to reach over 100,000 students globally. I myself have, as the introduction had said, I myself am also trilingual if you wanted to ask questions in English, French, or Spanish, if you know those languages. And then there's some programs and like distinctions that I've been a part of that I'm not necessarily going to get into per se, but if you have any questions about any of them, you can like type in the chat right now, just like if there's anything on your mind so that I'll look back at. But judging and mentoring at hackathons and business competitions has been something I've been doing a lot because it's really, really a great way, whether you're just a student or you're trying to build something of your own, to share your skills and knowledge with other people. And yeah, it's a really, really fun experience being immersed with so many other students who are like-minded and trying to, navigate their own paths. But that's a little bit about me. If you have any questions about anything, you can either type it in now, or I will obviously wait until the end for any other questions as well. And then this is like a little look into what we look like right now. We've definitely updated, and in fact, this video is just kind of like a scroll down, but We have actually rebranded, so our logo is now black. But yeah, that's kind of how we look like right now. As it may be of inspiration for you, we categorize our resources into 3 categories. So resources, materials, and tools. Just to give some context, resources is anything we consider kind of like the basic resources you may consider for school, like math, biology, chemistry resources. And the materials is more so we consider it like the tangible items that students can, either print out, write on, like planning sheets, classroom posters, things like that. And then tools, we consider it anything that's sort of like non-stationary, things with movement. So, timers for studying, 1 to 2 minute video guides, things like that. And that's basically who we are in a nutshell, but definitely feel free to do a quick Google search to learn more about us. So getting into background inspiration. So I love hearing when, workshop speakers or anyone who's giving a talk, whether a TED Talk or any sort of talk at events, I love to hear why they started and also what's giving them the drive to keep going. So starting off with why I started. So there are kind of like 3 reasons I usually tell people. So growing up, coming from my diverse background, like my parents, were on 2 different sides of the world, and we had like so many different language barriers within our family, and I really was having a hard time struggling to adapt to my circumstances. And so I was spending, and my parents actually were spending a lot of money for me to attend different tutoring services. And, those cost like hundreds of dollars over time. And I realized like that's something so simple that students should have access to, like language resources. So that was the idea I initially had, was creating a language platform. But then what actually transitioned and made me say, let's make something larger out of this, was seeing that like halfway through high school, I still didn't even know at all what I wanted to do after high school. I was just kind of following everyone else. And many of my friends were going down the sciences route on the way to medical school. But for me, I saw myself definitely working within the intersection between business and technology. And, after I realized that it wasn't only me who didn't know what I wanted to do after high school, but really many of my peers and like my family as well. When I was, going into my future, trying to make my career decision. So that's when I just said, let's just create a centralized approach at student resources and tie together everything students could need. And then as for reasons why I keep going, so I then realized that really and truly, there are thousands of other students across the world who feel the same ways that I was, really not sure what they wanted to do after their futures and needing that kind of support system. And now that I've launched us, I've definitely learned to honor my pace. I feel much more happier, every day, knowing where I want to be, going into the future. And then, of course, lastly, feedback. So hearing feedback from students who visit us, or parents or educators, and student stories is definitely something that motivates me and my team a lot. So that was a little bit of background inspiration for why I started. So now it's going to get more so into specifics. But first, I want to go into a quote by Meredith Mahoney. She had once said, know where you want to go and make sure the right people know about it. And I feel like that is 100% true, because honestly, starting off, it was just myself and my closest friend, no one else, just us 2. And we didn't think at all about recruiting a team until, I want to say, a few months. I don't exactly remember how many months, but we were just working, the 2 of us, on creating this idea. And it wasn't until those months later that we said, we really do need a team. And with these right people supporting us and having this centered, community around us, it's definitely helped us to grow, and we feel like we have, that best community supporting us, and it's really, really helpful. But that's just a quote that I usually like to give in workshops, because honestly, the right people can really make, that big leap in how far you can become, I guess, successful within any idea you have. And another question I get asked a lot is, how do you find the right people? And I'm asked this like all the time, but for finding the right people, I feel like there isn't, a set standard for everyone, but there are some things that I guess you can look for. So on the screen, I've put up 5 ways that you can try to find people. So starting off, the first point I have here is closer friends. So with my closer friends, I feel like it kind of depends on your friend group, but my friends are quite nice to me and they don't like to give too much like harsh critical feedback. And that may be the same for you, whether you're a guy, a girl, it doesn't really matter. So for my closer friends, instead of asking them for advice on an action I should take, I usually just take that action and then after ask them for input because they can see that change and difference. And then second, reaching out through other people. So if you're not as confident, which was initially me, I wouldn't be like, talking so confidently, I guess now, you can definitely reach out through other people. So for example, if you have a list of people that you want to reach out to, say investors or advisors or mentors that you want to potentially take on, you can have one single person on your team who's just doing that communication. So you can potentially, as the leader of your team, gather, those lists, but have one person who's just working on sending out those emails or messages. Third, connecting with program participants. So you're already here. Startup Saga is really, really great to, find people who are like-minded and trying to launch something of their own. So definitely trying to stay in contact with the people you're either building your projects with or people that you may meet through different events is really great. And of course, you can connect with me. And then my last 2 points here are learning from your elders and educators' lessons. So we always say that, our elders have the best experiences, but they also have really and truly the most experiences, having lived twice or triple our age, and can give us some great advice. And then educators' lessons. So, there are, many teachers and professors, if you're at college or university, that are willing to just, set up like a 15-minute call or, talk to you for a bit on just some suggestions. And I would recommend that as well. My first mentor was actually my high school English teacher. So you never know who you can meet, really. And then getting into strengths and weaknesses. And so for strengths, there are a few things that I would say I was really proud of our team for. So we had a really close-knit community starting off, and that's something that many people ask me about, like, how can you make sure that your team is engaged and that everyone, is following along. So for us, I would say that we had these regular bonding sessions is really what made us really close-knit together. And so with these bonding sessions, we would either just have like one-on-one meetings with individual members of the team, or if you have like a larger team, then you can just do like a, weekly question that people have to, I guess, answer. It can be really anything just to check in with your team. And then second, we focused and honed in on our student audience, which was obviously our target audience, and we received support from them from the very beginning. So to get support from your target audience, you can try to go, where they most are. So for us, students were obviously in schools. So we went to schools and we did surveys, and we were, kind of seeing how many students were really interested in what we were providing or what we were doing for them. And so we received support from them from the very beginning before starting. Third, we knew of things that we could and could not change from the very beginning. So for example, we obviously knew that we could try to support students as best as we could. We could do everything we could, but we couldn't really control or change how parents, counselors, or any educators would approach the platform. And we were aware of that. We just tried to work with them as best as we could. And then lastly, a strong foundation of values and a strong mission statement. So obviously, having a really strong mission statement is what really keeps your team together, and obviously the community you're trying to serve, because you're giving people sort of something that they can connect with a mission statement, really and truly. And then for weaknesses, there are 3 points I have here. So first, speaking to government leaders or educators or students, students speaking to parents who were, on our team as twice or even triple our age. So I remember once, and I usually say this story, but I was speaking to this educational leader within the government field, and he was like, I guess really big, and I didn't want to have to, I didn't want to really mess anything up. So I really did feel in that moment like a sense of, I guess, lack of confidence. So that was kind of like a weakness on our part, but it was because of a reason, which is my second point here, is that I was kind of nervous and afraid because we didn't really have a professional front starting off from the very beginning. When people would ask us, why are you starting, or like, why do you guys exist? Why should I come to you? We could just, come up with an answer, but it wasn't really direct, and we didn't have like these clear, concise answers that we could easily give. So a solution to that, and that's something I see many people struggle with, is creating one-pager guides that help anyone that you're trying to serve, or like a frequently asked questions page, anything to really answer some common questions. And those helped definitely a lot that we could refer to. And then lastly, sharing information with each other as students, because we were completely student-led. So we have students in university and high school who are helping us, develop what we're doing. And we didn't really have a good, I guess you could say, like project management software. So, Notion, Asana, Trello, all of those great ones are really great for keeping all your documents and files together, and I would recommend it. We just personally didn't have that starting off, so if you can try to get one, even just a basic Google Drive, definitely set one up to keep everything really organized. And then I'm going to end off with resources. So if you're thinking about a question in your mind, feel free to type it in right now so that when I get to the chat, I guess there are some questions. And yeah, I'm open to answering, I guess, almost everything if it is appropriate. So getting into resources, I have some for you on like the logistical side. So like, how you can, I guess, work on operations, and then also tools. So on the logistical side, first off, considering team formation as a time for team bonding as well. So when you're, building your team, there are like, many different people, many different backgrounds, many experiences that they all come from. Some of them may not have as many experiences, or a lot of people with experiences. So I think that it's really important that when you're building a team, even if it's just through like a Discord chat or any sort of like communication software, or if it's in person, to try your best to get to know everyone and why they're here, so that it can really motivate them when things do get tough. Second, spending time researching your target audience more than the potential outcomes. So seeing how your target audience, and this can be anyone, doesn't have to be students, it can be business leaders, anyone really for a target audience, seeing how, you can really help them more than what you can get out of producing your product, service, or hardware. So for us, like I mentioned with the student surveys, we were going directly to schools where students were and that we could talk to them easily. And we weren't really focused on the numbers. We actually had this quote unquote big goal to reach 500 students. And, now that we're in the thousands, that's not really like, a big goal. But I think that we were able to get above that because we really focused on how we could support students directly. And then lastly, if you're not, to put yourself in the consumer or, customer persona's shoes. So imagine your ideal person who has all of these struggles that your team or your product or service is trying to solve. And imagine yourself like using your product or service. How would they go through it? Would it actually seem feasible? And would it be realistic for them? And then on the tools side of things, I have 3, but of course, if there's any questions about anything specifically, I'll answer them. So first, for people who always ask me about like the basics of business, how can you learn like the very basics? So Patriot is this a really great accounting management software, but they have a really great blog and lots of infographics that get into the very basics of accounting and management. And you can use their software for 30 days free, but overall, I love their blogs and infographics that teach you the very basics of business. And then Canva, I know that many people know it as kind of like a, I guess, Instagram post creator, but Canva is really great for their printing services because you can create these like brainstorm sheets where all of your team members can go on to a single page and kind of like release all your thoughts together. And then you can also print everything you make for really a relatively low cost. So it's really, really great. Sorry. And then digital grants, you know, finding like the things that you can get for free or at least discounted as a startup or as a student is really great. So free tools for students, you know, free student technology in your city, your region, your country are some good search queries, and then tech for good. So on the top of my mind, I know that there are many tech enterprises that are offering a lot of discounts for students, like for example, Notion, Microsoft Teams, I'm sure with your school or any sort of affiliation you have there. And I believe there's so many others. I think Trello does offer a student discount, but really trying to find all these things that you can get for free or discounted starting off is great. And that is everything I have before I get into key takeaways. So for key takeaways, just briefly before I get into any questions, I had gone over, you know, finding your target audience and how you can directly assist or support them. Emails, outreach, surveys are really important to get validity in your idea. Brand establishment is key, seeking feedback on a regular basis, and trying to learn what you can and cannot control early on. And yeah, that is everything I have for this presentation. So if you did want to connect via LinkedIn, I am of course there to answer any questions, but I will check the chat in a bit. And then of course, Leading Learners is on Instagram. We just shorten our name to Lead Learners on Instagram. So yeah, feel free to, I guess, follow us there, but I'll see if there's any questions now. Oh, okay, I see a question now. So this question was saying, I think it's kind of personal. I don't know if I should read out the entire thing, but it's here for everyone. So basically they're explaining how their friends are not really sharing what they're working on despite them asking, and you know, because everything's online, it's kind of like difficult to have that communication gap. I understand that completely. So what solution do you suggest to reduce that conversation and competitive gap on building an effective team? So for, you know, people who are putting, I guess, like a lot of, you know, effort into their project or something that they want to develop, it's definitely understandable to see people who are maybe not as motivated or not, I guess, too understanding of what you're trying to build. And something I would first recommend is, you know, having that understanding that people have, you know, maybe some other commitments and that they're not necessarily, I guess, able to stick to one thing at a time. So it's first that understanding, and second of all, relating back to why everyone is here. So everyone on your team is there for a reason, whether you know it or not. They either maybe joined because they thought initially, wow, this person had a really great idea, or they joined because they said, okay, maybe I can build my skills and put them towards this project. So if you know, you're thinking that someone has some really great skills, I think it's just kind of that reinforcement and remembering and reminding them that you know, they really are a valuable member of the team and that any efforts are appreciated. And you know, if they didn't put in that effort, to just simply, I guess, let them go if you can at the end of the day. But yeah, I will stick back for any other questions. And of course, I'm definitely available to connect via LinkedIn as well for any other questions that stand out. Okay, so there's another question here. When dealing with students to understand their problems, how should we communicate with them? Because they're not too comfortable to share their problems to strangers. It is in reference to building solution for them, like those who are specifically challenged people. Okay, yeah, that's honestly a great idea from what I can see from the top of my mind. But yeah, I understand that, you know, students not necessarily want to give away, you know, all of their personal details. So for us, we actually ask surveys in, like I mentioned, neighboring high schools, like in universities. So when I was in high school at the time, I was doing these surveys just to see how many students would actually want to use our platforms. So in these surveys, I obviously would recommend surveys for students specifically. Maybe one, keeping them anonymous if you can. And two, if you can do it, like try to have some sort of approach where you get to feel comfortable with everyone that you're speaking to. So for us, we weren't just, asking everyone that we saw on the street or like in high schools. We would like walk up to them and like, have a good conversation if we could, to make them feel more comfortable, and especially students who are not necessarily too comfortable disclosing information. Okay, another third question here, and I think I'll wait into I guess these 4 minutes. So if you have any questions, feel free to just let me know or ask via LinkedIn. But this third question here is how to motivate the people who are more towards job-oriented to invest in your business, or simply how to find investors since we're students. How do you motivate the people who are more toward job-oriented? From what I'm understanding that question, I think that yeah, I kind of see what you mean there by needing like, I guess, some sort of background or, having some sort of proof that you worked in that sort of area before. So if you don't like have that much experience, I think that investors are a little bit hesitant because, they want to put money into things that they believe can actually go far. So if you and your team can even make it something fun, that you all just decide to take a couple of, I don't know, online classes to prove some skills in some areas that you feel a little bit more, I guess, weak on. So for example, like a management course that can just be done online from an accredited university, or, Google or Microsoft courses. Those can help to get some, I guess, confidence, and then also some confidence towards investors. And then as for finding them, of course, you can just, eventually reach out and do a lot of outreach. But I think that before you do that, do have a lot of presentations and packages that answer common questions so that they feel more comfortable, talking and then eventually working with you if you can. Okay, I think I'll wait another 2 minutes. So, okay, there is another question. What are the main problems you face in your startup, the most challenging stage in your startup? So for us, it's kind of a funny story because I initially started, the idea and then the startup as just something that would serve my region. So I didn't think that it would, go to scale much larger. So for me, I would say it was just actually that like lack of preparation if it did scale larger. And I think that many students kind of underestimate themselves when they think that they have a great idea, but only it will affect, or I mean, support this many people, or it will only be useful to this many people. But I just didn't have that, I guess, awareness of how I would work towards it being much larger than it actually is. And I would say to prepare that, to be able to prepare that by, I guess, having some sort of, I guess, outline or goals if it did scale much larger. And then I think I'll take this last question here before closing off. And then if you have any questions, feel free to ask via LinkedIn. What can we add in school curriculums to promote leadership skills and entrepreneurship skills? Yeah, that's, a great question. So I'm here in Canada, and when I was in high school, my school wasn't that special. We didn't have any, I think that many people know of like AP classes or IB. We didn't have anything that would, give students that like extra credit or, any kind of interactive program. So I found myself a lot going outside and doing a lot of outreach and going to different programs that were outside of my school. So I would say that something we can do to definitely promote leadership skills and entrepreneurship skills is by including those in the, curriculum itself. So either having like a class for entrepreneurship, we didn't have that at my school. I had to go online and take that class. Or secondly, I guess having like clubs if they don't exist in your school curriculum to promote that as well. And then third, if not, I just kind of just creating a more safe space or like I guess resources for students who want to take that leap at that school. So I mean, already on top of my mind, just because of ideas, I would think it would be really nice to have, you know, a platform where students could hop on and find some resources for entrepreneurship and leadership. So, I mean, that's honestly a great idea to start if you wanted some inspiration. But yeah, I think that's everything. I do have to go, so I will be answering any questions you have via LinkedIn, but thank you so much for listening.
Galicia, this is Professor Geeta Patil from AIT. I would like to say thank you to you. Whatever personal experience, personal touch you have given, that will going to really help the student in their journey. And whatever platform you have shared, that will also help them in many ways. So thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. And I'm wondering, is this going to be posted anywhere via like YouTube or anywhere else?
Yes, afterward we'll put it on YouTube.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I'll definitely be able to answer any questions via LinkedIn if any other students have any. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.